Just kidding. I don't know. I'm recording with a new mic this week, so let's adjust a little thing here. Man, it's been a crazy week, but we're back. Um, recording this intro on a Saturday night. First time I've ever actually done that. So, got a lot to do tomorrow, Sunday. My goddaughter's birthday, and then I got uh, blah, 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 blah. Another birthday breakfast in the morning, so I got a lot of stuff going on. Um, I just, I want to say thank you again. I mean, I know I said thank you on the 25th episode, but I want to say thank you again to everybody that downloads each week. Hit a new milestone, man. Like it was, I mean, the last 30 days. Oh, I mean, honestly, it's been like slowly growing. Like, each month we're getting downloads each month. But this month it was nice. I mean, it was like 3,700 downloads the other day. And then when I checked it today, it was over 4,000 in the last 30 days. Um, so, I mean, it's pretty freaking awesome, man. Um, I'm just like really like just thankful for everybody that downloads each week. Like I'm super appreciative. Got a lot of great feedback last week from the episode with Hodap on Tap, Adrian. She was freaking awesome. And honestly, everybody over at Hermosa, like I can't say enough how appreciative I am of everybody. And like I said, I'm not trying to be sentimental or anything like that, but it made me freaking happy when I saw that the other day, like Meeching Miles. I mean, because I think at the most at that point I had was at 3,000 in 30 days or in a month. So to be like for the month of August to have like 3,700 downloads, and then actually then today go over the 4,000 download mark in 30 days. So that was pretty fucking awesome for me. So I'm super appreciative. But this week, and I have Alexander Gates is my guest. Honestly, what a really cool dude. Like, he didn't have to, reach out to me or no, he didn't have, not, I reached out to him, but he didn't have to answer. But like, super cool guy. And, from being, it's actually, his Instagram is at Aloha State Brewing. Like, we got to talk about Hawaii. We got to talk about all these different things. We got to talk about crack seed, which is awesome, like Lihi Moi, which is something like in LA they call them like soliditos, but in like they're like dried plums and stuff like that. But over in Hawaii they call them like Lihi Moi. That's just different things. But we got to talk about all the different breweries over because he's over in Oahu. He is he's a certified beer judge. He's an award-winning writer. Like, I am super thankful for him because him and I got after him and I were talking about joining. He's award-winning writer for the North American Beer Guild of Writers, which is freaking awesome. Or they I might have butchered that. I'm apologize if I did. But it's the NAGBW. It's the North American Guild of Beer Writers. Now, I'm sorry, I butchered that. But he told me, he's like, man, like enter your podcast, like they put it on there and, submit the thing, become a member. So I did. It went through the review process. I was on that thing every day, checking to see if I was, if they would let me in, and they did. So now, now I'm a member of the obviously the Writers Guild for North America. So that's fucking awesome for me, like in the podcast format. And actually just made some connections now too. So I mean, I got some stuff coming up that I'm pretty excited about with some guests. So that's pretty awesome. But before I do get into the first brewski, because I'm drinking some Hawaiian beers today, I do have something like some stuff that we talked about on the show, especially with the Maui fires. I'm going to talk about Kokua Brewing, which is one of the breweries that burned down. So I wanted to definitely plug what they have. So if you guys, if I'm putting the link in my bio on Instagram, so it's at the Tap Room Podcast on Instagram. But if you go to MauiBrewingCo.com/Kokua, there's a lot. If you're a brewery and you're listening to this, you can brew a session IPA that they're doing, and we actually talk about it in the interview. I said we actually talk about it in the interview. So when you listen to that portion, like we talk about all that, like Kokua Brewing burned down out there in Lahaina. So all these breweries, I think there's like what over 300 breweries now that are involved, and they are brewing this session IPA. So, and if you go to a brewery that is brewing that and you buy that beer, you like all 100% of the proceeds go back to go to Kokua to be able to, for them to rebuild their brewery. Like, how fucking awesome is that? Like, just being able to do something like that for another human being, and all the people that lost all the stuff, like all like their livelihoods. So, I mean, I just think that's really freaking cool what Maui Brewing is doing for them. So definitely check that out. Like I said, link is in my bio. It's on my link tree, so you can go on there. You can click on that. You can be able to see what breweries are going to be brewing it. So maybe you can go to that brewery and have a beer. But I am going to crack one open, and I had to do one from Maui Brewing because of what they're doing for them. This is the OMG Hazy. Hazy IPA coming in at 7%. Mike said might have had a few today, so I apologize if I sound the way I do. But this one is crafted with passion, inspired by paradise, baby. So let's crack her open, eh? Oh yeah, gotta love that spike. Here we go. I'll finish the rest of it after, but like I said, I don't know how many beers I've had today, but oh, that smells good. Super floral, like on the nose. One thing I love about Maui Brewing too is like I love turtles. My sister actually had a turtle when we were kids. She named him Austin because she bought him on 3/16, March 16th. So, and if you don't know who Austin is, I'm Stone Cold. But cheers. Hot damn. That's good. That's actually really good. I've never had the OMG Hazy. I've had the Pineapple Mana, the Big Swell, and a few different other ones. And honestly, I haven't really had a bad beer from Maui Brewing Co. So yeah, man, that's good. And I apologize if I'm all over the place. It's been a lot going on today. A lot going on, honestly, the last few weeks. Been super busy. Obviously with the show, work, and all that sort of stuff. So my apologies. But let's jump into the headlines this week. Oh, I'm gonna, let me rate that first. I should probably have done that to begin with. Like I said, I've had a few today. I said floral on the nose. It is super hazy. And it's nice because the one thing I love about Maui Brewing is you can actually pick them up out here on the mainland. You don't have to obviously go to Maui to have it. No, but it's really good. I'm gonna give it a solid 8. No, I'm gonna go 7.5. It's a really solid hazy. You can't really go wrong with it. So I mean, if you can pick some up or if you see some somewhere, I really prefer the Pineapple Mana. I think I had that on the show with Alexander, but I'm gonna give it a solid 7.5. It's really, really good. Can't really beat that. It's like if that beer's in the fridge, I'm not gonna walk away from it. So, all right, let's jump into some headlines. The ACC added Cal, Stanford, and SMU for college football. I mean, I'm assuming it's all sports, but mainly like the college football thing is a big thing for them. I mean, Cal and Stanford. I mean, I get SMU. Cal and Stanford, I know they needed a place to go, but that travel's gonna be rough. I just feel like, man, that's kind of like fuck. Like at least with like SC and UCLA, Oregon, and like Washington, And I really feel like they're going to end up adding like Oregon State too. I feel like the Big Ten will. But at least with those teams being there, SC can have 3 games on the West Coast. So you can still kind of have that. You might play Nebraska as well. So, I mean, you still kind of like, you might have a few games in a time zone that's not so far away. But if you're Cal and Stanford, you're kind of going a little ways away. You're going to the East Coast. So, I mean, honestly, you got to do what you got to do. So, I mean, you kind of probably had to go to those places. SMU, I thought I saw that it said that they weren't getting any revenue sharing for 9 years. I was like, maybe because of the whole thing back in the day, but I doubt it was because of that, because of the whole, well, you know. Well, hopefully you know. If not, look it up. But I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, next year is going to be insane. It's the last year of the Pac-12. And what's crazy is, it's like, this is like the deepest the Pac-12's ever been. Colorado fucking beat TCU today. I know people are making a big deal about it. Deion's kid looked great. Travis Hunter looks like he does a solid corner. But TCU isn't what they were last year. They lost I don't know how many guys. And they also lost their offensive coordinator. They lost Garrett Riley to Clemson. So, I mean, before people, try to jump off the deep end and be like, oh, Colorado's back. I definitely think they're going to be a good team. I'm not saying they're not going to be. I think they are a let's wait and see kind of team. Let's give it a few weeks. But definitely they are a lot better. When I watched the game today, TCU, when they were running the ball, looked great. When Morris was throwing the ball, they looked like shit. And I apologize, he looked like John David Booty, just telegraphing fucking passes. As soon as he snapped the ball, he was eyeing down his receiver, and everybody knew where they were going. Even though I think there was a pick that Travis Hunter had, like near the end zone. He takes a snap, goes up, looks right at him, and Travis Hunter knew where he was going with the ball. So we'll see what happens there. Another hot take. I said it last week's episode, I think. Notre Dame's for real. Sam Hartman, they're going to do some things this year. They definitely are. The only thing is, I feel like I was going to say, I think I said it last week, the big test was going to be Ohio State. But Ohio State did not look great against Indiana. So we'll see. I mean, you're trying to find your way. You're trying to find a quarterback, which is understandable. I get it. But still, like, Notre Dame knows who they are. Offensively, they know who they are. Defensively, we won't really know that until they go up a team with a really good offense. And you can say the same about like Alabama and all these different teams. So we'll see. SC's 2-0, I guess. Haven't really played anybody yet, so we'll see. But I'll give my college football, preview, I guess, after the next beer. But things, it was great to have college football back. It feels good. Like, it makes my heart feel so damn warm. Thinking, like, I'm going to have football. I have hockey in a couple weeks, the preseason. Baseball's going on right now. And speaking of baseball, to segue to the Braves-Dodgers. Braves have won the first 3. I love it. Went to the Braves game the other day on Thursday. They barely held on, but looked really good on Friday. Won on Saturday. Hopefully they go for the sweep tomorrow. We'll see. Knock on wood if you hear this. We'll see. No, but the baseball's, we're coming down to the wire, man. There's only, 28 games left, I think, or 27 games left, depends. So things are getting real. I'm going to do a playoff preview probably in a couple weeks. So we'll see. But I'm excited about it. Who doesn't love football? Who doesn't love baseball? Who doesn't love hockey? And then I guess basketball's coming back sometime soon, but whatever. Another thing on the headlines, freaking Aaron Judge hit his 250th home run. Congrats to him. I used to hate the Yankees as a kid. Don't really do it anymore. I just respect. I mean, you got to respect it. Even like going back to like the Jeter days, like you got to respect. Oh, game respects game. I guess we'll say that. The Yankees this year obviously aren't that great, even though I picked them to go to the World Series. No, I picked them to win the division, and I picked Tampa Bay to go to the World Series. But either way, what else we got? I said, going through the headlines, that's pretty much it. I want to chug the rest of this beer and I'm going to crack a Kona. Let's do it, Kona Big Wave. Liquid Aloha. I love Konas. They're easy drinking. You know what you're getting. You're not getting anything super fancy, but it's fucking good. So I'm gonna have to let that settle. So it's while I let that settle before we jump into the interview, I'm gonna do a quick college football. I guess you can call it a picks. Nah, not even picks. I'm not gonna do picks. I'm gonna do just kind of talk about who I feel like is actually going to make some noise. I feel like Georgia makes the playoff for sure. People keep talking about Alabama. Like people keep saying, "Oh, Alabama's going to come back." Like don't knock Nick Saban. And I'm not knocking Nick Saban. He's the greatest coach of all time. Easily. But like today they played Middle Tennessee with Jalen Monroe. And I don't know who else. Maybe Ty Simpson played today. I didn't watch the game. But I honestly, I still feel when Alabama play, until Alabama shows me that their backfield, not their defensive backfield, can stop a team that can go out there and just throw all over them, then I'm all in. Because Alabama, way back when you go back to like the LSU, like when it was like LSU and Bama when they played in the Natty that one year, the one thing Bama was absolutely the best at in the country was stopping people. They may have had a shitty quarterback going way back when, but they could you weren't getting past them. You were not even a little bit. That's why I think was it that one natty was like 9-6, and I'm sure I probably messed it up. It might have been 6-3. Who knows? So don't roast me. Don't send me a message saying, "Hey, you f this up." It's been a while, but until their front seven's always been their key. But if you can throw, if you have a team that can go out there and just air it out, they can do it. And honestly, Georgia the same way. Look at what Ohio State did when they played them in the playoff last year. Ohio State was up by 18 with I don't know how many minutes left and blew that game. But it's Georgia though. Does Georgia three-peat? And we'll see. But I feel like I don't think Bama makes the playoff. I think Georgia does. I do feel like Michigan does. Honestly, and this is a hot take for me because I'm not a Notre Dame fan, but I feel like Notre Dame could make a run at the playoff. But the only thing that's holding them back is they might, because they don't have they don't play in a, since they're not in a conference, that holds them back and they don't have a conference championship. So, we'll see. But I think Notre Dame could definitely make the playoff. I feel like the offense is that good. The defense hasn't been tested yet, but the offense is that good. Next week, because I feel like NC State's a pretty decent team, so they might have a little something there. So we'll I think we can kind of gauge it then. I know people, obviously people in LA, I'm an SC fan, but I just feel like the schedule might be too tough on the back end. And I'm not trying to discount Colorado. We'll see. I think Colorado is one of those wait and see teams. And but I feel like definitely Georgia, Michigan. I feel like Clemson could make some noise because I mean, there's the whole wanting to fucking after having a really bad season jump into it. Um, but we shall see. I'm still trying to nail it down. Like I'm trying to like pick my teams, but I also don't want to be like fuck. I don't want to give like oh I picked this team and then they're dog shit. I want to maybe give it a couple weeks and like be able to really feel like who looks really good and who's playing really good. Because right now everybody's playing shit teams. SC is one of them. They played San Jose State. They played Nevada today, which another thing. You know what? I'll get into that next week. But I'm gonna drink this Kona Big Wave, and then we're gonna jump in the interview. Liquid Aloha. I love their commercials, the FOMO ones. Um, but before we jump into the interview, I do want to say, like, if you have a chance to make sure it's a legitimate, like, I'm not telling you to go and donate to some random fucking thing, but if you find, like, I'm sure, like, the Red Cross has stuff like that. Like, if you can do something to donate to, the people, like the families in Lahaina, do that. If you can. Only if you can. Nobody's, like, if you're on your last dollar and you're trying to, and you, like, want to get yourself a double cheeseburger from McDonald's, do that. Like, make sure because you always have to pay yourself, but if you have a little bit extra and you can donate a few bucks, do it to whatever organization that's really supporting those people. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I just really hope that, like, that people out there, it's people helping people. I'm not trying to quote Fred Claus or anything like that, but that was funny. That just came off the top of my head. But I honestly, I hope you guys enjoyed the interview. I just want people over there to be okay, and because it's a fucked up situation, and the guy that's supposed to be running our country said something, but whatever. I'm not going to get into that. Not going to get into politics on this show. But I love all you guys. Hope you guys enjoy the interview. Like I said before, timestamp will be in the description. Stay tuned for the outro. Love you guys. Enjoy the interview. All right, guys, welcome back to the Tap Room. I'm your host, Mike. I am here with Alexander Gates, also known on Instagram as Aloha State Beer, or at Aloha State Beer. How you doing today?
Great. Beautiful Sunday morning. Beautiful day.
That's awesome. And you live in Hawaii. What island are you on?
I'm on Oahu in Honolulu, largest city. So also has the most breweries and most stuff going on.
That's really cool. And to just talk about your accolades a little bit, you are a certified beer judge, also a North American Guild of Beers writer, award-winning writer. So, kind of, if you can, tell me a little bit more, like how you got into. Obviously, we can talk about how you ended up in Hawaii. Because are you originally from there?
No, I grew up in Pennsylvania on the East Coast. Went to Penn State. That's kind of where I got into like the big macro beers and just the college life of having really bad stuff. But it wasn't until maybe 7 or 8 years ago that I really started getting into craft beer and learning the differences, learning about all those things.
Oh, that's awesome. So when was it? When did you move to Oahu?
Right after college, I went in the Peace Corps. I was in Thailand for 3 years, and
wow.
After that time, I started looking for jobs, and there was one that really appealed to me here. I had visited on vacation a couple times as a kid, and I always loved it here. So I thought it'd be a fun place to try out for a few years, and that ended up being 10 years ago.
That's cool. That's awesome. So you started your craft beer journey over in Pennsylvania, and what was when you moved over to Hawaii or to Oahu? What was the craft beer scene like during that time? Because I feel like it's grown exponentially now, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I distinctly remember breweries like Trogs were open and around, but they were like that one started out small in Harrisburg, like a little city brewery, the Two Brothers, and just about the time when I was moving away from Hershey area, that they expanded to their current facility. I just saw this week they were voted best brew tour in the country by USA Today
Oh,
again,
wow.
and really exploded. So every time I get to go home, it's amazing to see these tiny little places that I remember seeing bottles and cans, and now they have these big, gorgeous facilities, and yeah, that's a neat story, and just Hershey area in general has really exploded with breweries. I think with the ebb and flow of just of the market, some have opened and closed since I've been gone and never got to visit them, but a lot of them are really expanding nationwide. So
Wow, that's cool. I mean, and especially because it's crazy. You feel like everywhere you go now, I feel like there's a craft brewery,
mhm.
and I feel like it's so good, for the business because people have different choices, different options, and you're able to go to all these different places or explore new places that you might not have maybe wanted to go before, maybe not wanted to go, but maybe wouldn't frequent very often, and now you have a reason to get out there, support their local economy, all that sort
Mhm.
of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. It's neat to see how I don't know, the country has just kind of changed if you're really into beer and visiting breweries, because you go on a road trip or whatever, which we really can't do here, but
Yeah.
you drive and you go to these tiny towns that you would expect there's nothing else there, and there's at least one or two brewery tap rooms. You stop in and meet people. It's a great way to learn about where you are, even if you're just there for one night. So,
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I took a trip just up north here in California, up near Monterey, and it was me and my girlfriend, and we went up for a weekend for a cousin's wedding. But along the way, we planned our stops at breweries, so we made sure we hit all the good breweries along the way, and being able to like Oak and Otter, Farfield. I think that we went to Other Brother Brewing. There's so many options out there, and it's like so many different places. So that's why if I can promote them a little bit, on here and be able to, talk about their stuff. And maybe if somebody will hear this and they're like, even if they're going to Oahu or something like that, they'll be like, oh, what brewery should I hit? They can listen to this episode and be like, hey, well, we're going to, we'll hit these spots. Do you have when you got, let's go back to Hawaii.
sure.
So when you moved over there, what was the scene like in craft beer then?
Well,
Being
I
it
think
was 10 years ago.
that kind of goes along with why I got into beer. I felt like the beer community, beer culture here was also just really starting. As far as like history goes, that Hawaii had breweries and bigger ones long time ago. Most of them really never did well just because of the having to ship in ingredients and then not
Yeah.
being fresh and doing all that stuff here. But as far as like modern stuff goes, 1994 was when Kona Brewing was founded on the Big Island, and that's probably the most famous brand today. They've gone through a lot of changes and stuff, but they opened their original brewery and pub in '94, and Gordon Biersch, the brewery restaurant chain, they opened a location at Honolulu Harbor at Aloha Tower, and that was always one of the most beautiful places to sit, just right on the
I
water,
bet.
especially at sunset. Like after work beers, sitting at the
Oh,
bar and
yeah.
just watching the sun go down. That one has since closed, and but as far as even Oahu went, when I moved here 10 years ago, the Kona Brewing has a pub in Hawaii Kai, which is that's still one of our favorite places to go. Great food,
Oh, awesome.
consistent beer, and it's on a marina overlooking the mountains on the east side of the island. So that was there, and that was it. And I feel like in that first year or two that I moved here, all of these places that are still around started popping up. There was a few little other microbreweries that came and went. It's neat to see in like old beer books, old magazines, people talking about these places. I never got to go myself. Some
Yeah.
of them were only open for a couple months or a year or whatever. But
Wow.
Honolulu Beer Works in the Kakako area, that is one that opened, I believe, 2013. So like a year, 2013, 2014, about a year after I was here. And it was just kind of fun that all these little beer places were popping up as I was getting into it. So it was like I could learn about the differences and, kind of see how each brewer's interests and signature would be on the beer. And, a new place would be opening. And I guess to somebody that's not really into beer, you could just see it as another brewery. But, it's really like,
Yeah.
oh, well, this place is doing more, tropical fruit, local ingredients. And then this place is focusing mostly on like popular sours and imperial stouts.
Mm-hmm.
And this place is all about experimentation and doing, styles you can't find anywhere else. And so I felt like each place had its signature, and then all the vibes of the actual, brewery tap rooms. It made you want to go, like whatever mood you were in, you go to this place. You want a relaxing, Sunday afternoon on the water, you go to Kona Brewing. Or if, weekday night, you just want a couple beers with friends. It might be Aloha or Hanakoa. So it was really neat to see all this stuff happening. And I felt like I was learning about these places and, kind of collecting all this knowledge about these places too. And then that's what pushed me to start my website and blog and start sharing all this stuff with the community.
That's awesome, man. And I love to hear that too, because like you said about how going to, like, you may, some breweries may focus on, like you said, sours, or some like other ones might be like, oh, we're really into hazies, like, like more of the tropical,
Mm-hmm.
style, like hazies, or, like whether it's like Pilsners, or anything, like any type of beer. But I mean, I love that because each brewer puts their own, unique signature on each
Yep.
beer that they brew. And it's nice to be able to go into a different place and you're not getting the same exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can, even people's, even brewers, when they make like, their Pilsners or lagers or, Czech Pilsners or, or like Czech Pilsners, rice lagers, all these different things. It's cool to be able to go in there and, each beer is distinctly that brewery.
Yes.
And I love that. I mean, to me, that's awesome. And, talking about your website and, your Instagram, when did you start like that, or that portion of your life?
That was 2017. It was the story that I like to tell was that on my 30th birthday, so the year before that, my girlfriend took me around Oahu. She was my driver, and I thought on my 30th birthday it'd be really fun to try 30 different new beers that I've never had before. So it was like,
That's awesome.
each place we went, some breweries it's like 4 to a flight or 6 to a flight or whatever. But it was just that made for a really fun day, kind of a long drive. And I want to say we started at Stubum and Stonewall in their original location in Kaneohe. They since went out of business after moving to Chinatown. Lanikai Brewing, they're one that does. They love using local ingredients, tropical fruits, unique things that you wouldn't find in beer. And then we went to Kona Brewing, the pub, and we ended up back in town with Honolulu Beer Works. And at the time, home of the Brave Brewing. It was a World War II museum and speakeasy and brewery bar. A neat place, but they've also since closed. So, but yeah, it just made for a really fun day of just seeing all these different places and all these different beers, back to back. And then that really set me on my journey. I started the beer blog and started covering events and, bigger things, festivals and brewery openings, those kinds of things on the blog itself. And then after doing that for myself, and I have no idea how many readers in the beginning, I pitched Honolulu Magazine and their digital wing, Frolic Hawaii, and I started writing for them. So I feel like, that expertise kind of goes from a hobby into something more professional.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's really cool. I mean, because just being able to, it's kind of crazy how it starts with, just like, I want to do this one thing, but then you realize how into it you are, and like, you know, you get kind of, you know, just be able to like, you just like the passion behind it is what I mean to say. Like that you don't necessarily know that passion's there, and then you find it, and then you just want to run
Yeah.
with it. And here you are 6 years later, and, you know, doing your thing. That's awesome, man.
I remember in the beginning, I think it had a lot to do with I was researching these places on my own, and then articles would pop up from national, local publications, whatever, and I would just see that they weren't accurate. You could kind of tell that it was somebody was hired to write a piece, and they would never actually hear, those kinds of things, and it's missing that personal touch. And then especially if the information's just not right, I don't know how that benefits the business or the readers.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah, that was another reason.
And when did you? Because also you won an award for a piece you did. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So that was after I had written for the local publications for a while. I realized that there used to be more beer magazines than there are right now. One of them, Beer Advocate, their actual print magazine stopped a couple years ago, but it was a favorite of mine to read, mostly because it was more about the beer culture, people, and the businesses, rather than just the science or the art of making beer itself. And I decided to pitch them a brewery guide because of Honolulu, which I felt like was more or less at its peak at that time, with some really unique places. And so I pitched that. I wrote a long form piece that was my first for a larger publication, and I won an award for that in, I think that was 2018 or 2019.
Wow.
So the North American Guild of Beer Writers, NAGBW, is
it's almost a tongue twister.
Yeah, that's been an invaluable resource as a writer, but also just as a beer person. Through the pandemic and stuff, they really started doing a lot of virtual happy hours and talks, and with people that have gone through this about how to do websites, beer podcasting, everything. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm glad to have found that group of like-minded writers and producers sharing this world.
That's awesome. And it's cool because you like I said, it's like, even if it's over like a Zoom call or something like this, like you get to share experiences, or even for, my listeners or, your writers, I mean, being able to share, what you've done and what you've been through, throughout this time, and everything that you've kind of built, whether it's the writing or whether it's your website or your Instagram. It's cool. It's cool to be able to hear that. And I love to hear stories like this. This makes me giddy to be able to hear stuff like that. I'm going to crack this beer open because I do have one from Maui Brewing. I have the Pineapple Mana, which is probably one of my favorites. I do like the Big Swell from Maui Brewing, but I know it's kind of hard to get. To get Hawaiian beers out here. But also you are a beer judge. When did you start doing that?
That kind of fell into, there was I saw that there were classes announced for learn how to judge beer and, become a certified judge with the BJCP, the Beer Judge Certification Program. And It was something I didn't know anything about that world at all. And I thought I would go to the introduction class, write about it, help them get the word out about it. And then I ended up falling into it myself and did all the classes, took the exam, passed, and then I've been judging as many competitions as I can. It was really hard there for a few years. There was nothing going on at all.
Yeah.
But, this year I got to judge 2 again, so it's been great to go back into that as well. And for anybody interested, the BJCP it's a nonprofit educational organization, so they don't make money off of you doing the stuff. Most of the classes will be offered for free in your local area, and it's usually by a judge that's looking to expand the pool of people that can do it. And a lot of the times it'll just cost whatever the beer costs to cover the supplies. And the most fun ones were the ones of the off flavors. Like there's kits with different things to add to the beers to make them taste bad on purpose, and then you can learn
Oh,
what
wow.
those different chemicals smell like and taste like, and and learn the causes of what those are. Common things with home brewing are different from commercial, and then even in different areas, like a rainy climate like the Pacific Northwest will give beers off flavors that our dry, wet, hot weather here won't, and there'll be other things. So yeah.
Wow. Could you give us a little peek behind the curtain on what, like, say if you were at a competition, what,
Sure.
like, how, like, how, like, what the whole thing encompasses? I couldn't get tongue twister there.
So it basically there'll be a lot of what BJCP judges are homebrew competitions. So it's people in an area that they all make their own beer, and then the competitions will be that they maybe it'll be small, maybe it'll just be IPAs or some other special just single categories, but mostly it's like whatever you want to make, you enter. And then for the actual competition, all the beers are in one place, and you really need a lot of great organizers behind the scenes because it's all blind. There's nothing on the bottles or cans to show what's inside. It's just a number, and then you judge it based on just the style. That's usually all you're given. No alcohol content or things like that. Sometimes you'll get the special ingredients they'll tell you, but that's it. And then
Gotcha.
you go there's guidelines, and you kind of compare them to the guidelines, but then you also compare them to each other. Pick out the best ones. Usually it's bronze, silver, gold, if there's enough in a style group. And then typically at the end you take all the gold medals and taste them all together. And that's more of, it's less sitting and like reading guidelines and assigning numbers and stuff to it. It's more just like you're sitting around with friends and you're trying 12 different beers and you're saying, oh, this is, overall, this is the best one, even though you really can't compare it to the others. It's just like, that's a really, really great example of a stout or whatever. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And those have been fun. I did one in a big commercial competition in Oregon, and it's fascinating to see what all these breweries around the world consider their best, what they're making their best. But there's also sometimes I feel like breweries, they want to enter beers, not necessarily because they think it's going to win, but they want that feedback, comments from judges, what they're detecting, and see if it kind of matches with what they were going for, and maybe make a better product off of that. So I know feedback's really important, and that's all writing and descriptions and the things that I love to do, sitting around talking with friends about beers. And
Yeah.
yeah.
That's really cool. So when you're like obviously judging the beers and you're drinking those, is it like how big of I always wonder, because it was like, man, like how much are they drinking? Because especially like say if it's a big competition like you mentioned before, like how many beers or like how much of a beer is being consumed by each person, by each judge?
I mean, I would say as far as you can't get drunk, and for anybody that sits around and drinks a lot of beers, after a while they all kind of start tasting the same because your palate's dead, or if you judge really acidic sour beers, there's no way you could like honestly judge lagers or something after that. You'd never get all the nuances and things. So I feel like some of that goes into organization, making sure that people that are judging those acidic sours, it's the last one of the day, or pronounced alcohol stouts, that should be the last flight of the day, so that you're not flying in your head in the morning, that kind of thing. But but a lot of it is, it's really that they might pour you 2 ounces of a beer, and some judges might only need half of that to really get the to really get all the important stuff. A lot of it's like the appearance, the aroma. Obviously, you don't actually have to take sips for any of that stuff, and then the sips is mostly for that mouth feel and the flavors. So I think a lot of water. They always give most oyster crackers or saltines, something to help break up the flavors, but also just help to soak up. And the better organized competitions I've been to, they always provide really good meals, like light breakfast, but a little more substantial, and then a big lunch and something afterwards.
Okay.
The food really helps get you through as well. And some competitions, especially in local areas, you might only get 100 entries or whatever, so the flights might only be 4 or 5 total beers. Not too bad. But then
Okay.
professional competitions, it's hundreds of beers in just a couple days that you have to do.
Wow.
So a bit more to
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds like it'd be so fun though. Do you have a
Yeah,
favorite
it
style
is.
that you like to drink?
I like IPAs and lagers a lot. I have never really been one that enjoys a lot of fruit flavors, and I don't really like sours myself. I feel like I love traditional German styles, some wheat beers. Belgian styles is something that I think took me a little longer to get into, rather than others, but I've really grown to like them, especially something like Brasserie de la Seine. I've really been enjoying their releases. And I think a lot of it has, for me, since we do have various seasons and weather changes and things here, but a lot of the time it's hot during the day. So if you're gonna enjoy
Yeah.
beers with a meal, you probably want something a little on the lighter side, less, or at least not like a triple IPA or an Imperial
Yeah.
Stout, something like that. But I usually go to, some of my favorites are Kua Bay IPA from Kona, Maui Big Swell. That's one I
Mhm.
find is on draft at a lot of places, and it's consistently good. A few, just I wish more breweries made lagers, but I know that a lot of the time, especially with the warmer weather here, it's hard to do that in an economical way. But some of the ones I've had
Oh.
were very good. So I would say I always have some kind of like American IPA. I enjoy hazy IPAs, as well. Lately, I've been really on a New Zealand hop kick. Anything
Oh,
with
yeah.
those flavors, I feel like a lot of them are more tropical and light, and they go well with hot weather. So, and what about you?
Yeah, that's
What are
good.
your favorites or
Same.
go tos?
I love, yeah, like lately, like West Coast. I do love. I've actually been really liking. Anytime I do see a New Zealand, I have been, like, all right, give me that can because I want to try it.
Hmm.
So I like a lot of those. I do like hazies too. Hazies are always good. I do like say like yeah, like rice loggers. I've
Hmm.
really been into like Czech Pilsners. I like super refreshing and like just something, especially because it does get pretty warm out here, especially during the summer. So
Hmm.
you want something light, refreshing. I don't mind sours as much. I don't really like the super fruited ones a lot. I will have like so I do like them sometimes, but yeah, lately it's been like yeah, West Coast, the anything New Zealand, and yeah, a lot of lagers and pilsners.
Hmm. I You
Yeah.
mentioned the rice lager, and the first couple of those I had, I felt like they were too like sickly or slick and sweet,
Mhm. Yeah.
like characteristics from the rice. But in Big Island Brew House on the Big Island, they have a Japanese rice lager that is one of the best I've had. Really crisp, refreshing, and
Oh
at
wow.
the Kona Beer Fest this year, that was one of the first to, like, it had a line and it was gone in probably the first hour. So very popular. That
Wow.
beer is very good. I wish I could get that more often, but yeah, it's rare to see certain draft releases from some of the other island breweries here. So.
Yeah. That sounds good though, because anything like that for me, and I can imagine how it would be a lot harder to brew like something like that over there. Is there do they because do they is all like like hops like imported? That may be like a funny question, but I've just never known. So do they
Yeah,
import as well,
sure.
or do they grow out there?
Yeah, it's one of those difficult things. Like, I know a lot of people always want to drink local, drink where, support the people that are brewing where you are. And I know there's that concept of like hyper local beer where you're getting malt from the farm down the street and hops from
Hmm.
the farm one county over or whatever. And yeah, in Hawaii, uh, the land and the temperatures, just you can't grow barley, and malt it here. And I think just it would be prohibitively expensive. And hops, Big Island Brew House, the same one. It's the highest in elevation brewery in the state, and it's a little more in the cool area of north part of the island, and they have tried to grow hops, and they have successfully. They did I think it was like a fresh hop IPA release, but their yield was so small that it was it was added in, but they needed other hops as well. But I remember that was a fun beer to try because it was special. But I don't think that the islands could really support hops. It needs a lot more temperate, more rain. So I think some of the brewery, like Lanikai Brewing, they really try to use local ingredients. So it's a lot of fruit, things that are grown here. And so that I think that's kind of their way to go back. And like the pineapple Amana you're drinking, I know that they use all Maui grown pineapple juice in that. So yeah, I think it's those adjunct extra ingredients that you can be more local here. Everything else has to come in.
Yeah, so when they're using those fruits, they're making their beers like distinctly like their beers like through the fruits and stuff. Because to me it's crazy, like when it comes to when you think of like when you talk to brewers or people like that, or even people that grow hops, like it's how you can have one hop, you can grow it in one part of the country, and then you can grow that same hop in another part of the country and get a completely different flavor profile because of the soil in each in each beer that you brew. It just blows my mind how but then again, not every soil is the same. So
right. And even just
it's crazy.
Is it a partially drought conditions? Is it too much rain, or all of that stuff affects the flavor?
Yeah. And I did want to talk a little bit because I know Maui,
Sure.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's like I mentioned about New Zealand hops, and then there's regions of like South Africa is a newer one, and Australia. I see that there's been more hops grown in these places, so it's really neat to get to try some of those. Honolulu Beer Works, the owner, I believe, is friends with a guy from South Africa who brought fresh. I can't remember the name of the hop, but he brought fresh hops with him when he visited, and they made a beer with that, and that was a unique. Like it was definitely an IPA, but all the fruit and hop flavors in it were special. So.
Oh wow, yeah. I mean, I always love to anytime when it's when you see stuff like that, like we talked about New Zealand, but if there's something like a South African kind of thing, or any type of if a hop from a different country, I always feel like, oh, I want to give that a taste. Like I want to see what it's like what kind of flavor profiles or what notes you're getting from those specific hops that are grown in different countries or different regions. To me, it's always cool to try those different things.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about, obviously the Maui fires and,
sure,
everything going on there. You got to pray that everybody's, all right out there. And, I know there was obviously quite a few fatalities. Something like that is just so sad to hear about. I did see that they came together. I believe it was on Oahu. They came together to mourn, the people they made that that ring with all the surfers out, paddled out doing something like that. And 2 breweries burnt down, didn't they? You were mentioning to me before.
Yeah.
Could you talk to us a little bit about those breweries?
Sure. One of them is Kohola Brewery. That's in Lahaina, and that was the facility where it was one of the original locations of Maui Brewing when they were just getting started. So there was a lot of history in that building. And that brewery has gone through some ownership and just changes with their beers. And it was so good in the last year to see them really making a comeback on store shelves. Their cans are very colorful, and it just makes an impact on the shelf. And some of their more limited releases were staples at a couple local bars in Honolulu that otherwise, we don't really get their draft stuff here. I got to visit a few years ago, and it's a wonderful experience. I know they made a few lagers, and one of the few bar tap rooms that had unique glassware for every beer style, which I always love seeing.
Oh,
that
that's
kind of
cool.
thing. And so that one was completely burned down, but they've been very positive on their social media, and I hope that their beer is selling through here. I've been seeing it even on sale at a few places, and I'm sure that they'll get back on their feet and reopen in a new way. And then Waikiki Brewing, they've been expanding in recent years, and they opened a tap room right on Front Street in Lahaina with a beautiful view. I never got to visit myself, but I've heard wonderful things. And they built a small batch system there, so a lot of their new releases and experimental stuff was made there. And then I would always look forward to those kegs coming to their pubs here on Oahu to get to try them. And they were one of those breweries that always swore they'd never make a hazy IPA, and then they made a few, and they were all delicious. And they were trying to get into wild ales. They made two traditional sour beers, both at that Lahaina location, and they did a special tasting of the two with a information card, and that was a few months ago. So it was neat to get to see those things. And I can't speak about the employees and all that of the two. I can't imagine what that's like. But as far as just the locations go, they're not there. But Waikiki Brewing also, they have 4 other locations as well. So if anybody is visiting and wants to support those, it's go to the grocery store and buy Kahola, or if you see it on draft, buy it. And Waikiki Brewing, you can visit any of their other locations, and it's supporting through that way. So, one of the big things upcoming is the Kokua initiative that Maui Brewing is doing. They have 3 locations on Maui, 2 on Oahu as far as tap room goes, but they've been really expanding in recent years. They bought Modern Times in San Diego, and they've been shifting to producing a lot more for the mainland market in California. And there were major floods in, I think it was 2017, 2018 in Kauai, and they organized a beer, charity beer for that. That was successful, and they decided to do the same thing this year, but they opened it up to other breweries like Sierra Nevada did with the Resilience, with the fire collaboration a few years ago. And speaking with the owner this week, he said over 400 breweries around the world have already signed up for it. It's going to be a session IPA.
That's awesome.
And so if anybody wants to, it's directly helping people to go to your local brewery, and if they have the Kokua beer on, buy a couple pints, because 100% has to go to the 3 different charities that they designated as part of that. So I think those first beers will probably be coming in the next couple weeks. So
awesome. And so, where could we find that? You said there's the three different charities, and where can we see what breweries are involved, so people can get out there and support?
They have a website. It's mauibrewingco.com/Kokua, and it's spelled Kokua. Right now, it's just a sign-up sheet for breweries. So if any brewers are interested in participating, you can go there. And I believe that website will be updated with the participants as that's finalized. So they awesome. Chose Session IPA because they wanted to make it, lower calories, lower alcohol, to encourage people buying more of it. So hopefully that's more dollars going to the charities.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, the more we can do, anything that anyone can do to support or get the the word out there, the better, because that's just a terrible thing that that happened. And I said all we could do is just hope that the families of can somehow build their lives back up.
Yeah.
definitely. So I'm gonna cheers to them. I'm gonna have a drink of this one here.
Yeah.
Over in Oahu, do you guys do you have any like local places do you like to go? Because I have family in Hawaii, but they're mostly like on the Big Island and on Maui, but they were okay.
Okay.
But do you are there any like local places you like to go, or like local like Hawaiian food that you like? Because I know like loco moco is kind of a big thing. I grew up on spam musubi, is like grew up on that as a kid. But do you have any local places you like to go to, or if someone's in Oahu, where would you send them?
Sure. Hawaiian food is unique in the world, and I feel like if you come here and you're not, you might not know what the different dishes are, how to eat it. And so one of my favorite places to take people is Highway Inn. Their original is in, I think, Wahiwa, and they have a larger location here in town, in Kaka'ako. Kaka'ako is the area of the city that's, it used to be Salt Flats, and they turned those areas into warehouses, and then the warehouses weren't needed anymore. So a lot of like car dealerships are being there to protect cars from the sun, but also these large warehouses became a lot of the breweries in the area. So most of the major breweries you can walk to all throughout this neighborhood. And Highway Inn has one of their main restaurants there, and they offer you when you walk in not just the menu, but also if you want somebody to like guide you through how to eat the food and what each thing is, they'll do that for you. It's one of the only restaurants I know of that does that. And my favorite thing there is their fish tacos. I feel like are unique. It's a taro, the purple root,
poi
tortillas. Yeah. But they make the tortillas from it, and then it's cooked fish,
wow.
and they put the lomi salmon, which is like cooked salmon. It's kind of like the consistency of a thick salsa, and that's and then that's put on top. So it's all these traditional flavors, but as a taco. And any chance I get, I like to have that. And they have a number of local beers on tap there too. And then that's right around the corner from Village Bottle Shop and Tap Tasting Room, which they're probably the best bottle shop and draft selection of beers from around the world, but also a lot of local stuff here in town. So yeah, it's an interesting thing here because it's a place that people love to come visit. So you always have visitors coming that are looking for those places. But then there's a lot of people that do live and work here. And I would say the majority of the time you see other regular people coming, but then you also see that there's people visiting, and you hear your favorite bartenders going through the talk of the place and how it works and all that. But then you can also tell who comes in every day after work for a glass or two of beer. So and I don't know, the whole Chinatown downtown area is one of my favorites. I wish I got to more. There's Skull and Crown, Tiki Bar, really cool spot. And then some of the Irish pubs are all together, Black Shamrock and Murphy's. And then one of the most famous restaurants is like Vietnamese Fusion. That's the Pig and the Lady, and that's across the street from Beach House Beer, which was the old Stew Bum and Stonewall location. So if you're into beer, or you're coming here and you want like Mai Tais and the classic cocktails and things, there's really neat places to go for those too. And it's a very different vibe when you're in Chinatown. Has the old storefronts of when it was a big shipping stopover point, and it doesn't feel like beaches and palm trees like you are when you're in Waikiki or on the North Shore.
That's awesome. Or were you? Do you like? Because I know you said they made the which like poi is like the the taro root.
Hmm.
Do you eat poi on its own? Because I would always joke with my grandma. She would always say, "Oh, come on, just eat it. It tastes good." I'm like, I gave it up for Lent. I would always tell her that every year.
I've eaten it many times, and that's one of those things that if you have somebody help you, like to add salt or add a little bit of loamy salmon
Hmm.
and kind of mix it all together rather than just some giant, glob of poi by itself. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good.
yeah. I couldn't. I would try it over and over again when I was a kid, and I just couldn't do it. I don't know if it was like the texture kind of thing, but
Maybe the
it wasn't
texture.
for
Yeah.
me. Yeah, but I would always eat like arari. I would eat like lihimoi was always like my go-to as a kid, like or like the
Hmm.
dried lemon peel. My auntie Madeline, she was a sweetheart, but she would come down and she would dry out mango seed for me, and then we would make mango seed with like the lihimoi powder and stuff
Hmm.
like that. Those were my mouth's watering just
Hmm.
thinking about it right now. But did you ever like ever eat any of that stuff?
Hmm. The whole concept of crack seed stores is
Mm-hmm.
that's it's unique here, and it's fun. Those little old places that have been around for, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
100 years, and you go in and it's like old candy stores on East Coast or whatever. Big scoops and fill up bags and order what you want, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's great
Yeah.
flavors, and it's interesting to have those classic candies like Li and try. you know Clearly it's a part of people's childhoods here, and then
Mm-hmm.
to see those people be brewers and put them in beer. You get those same Beer Lab Hawaii. They're the more experimental one. They do
Okay.
normal, hazy IPAs, American IPAs, ambers, brown, all that stuff, but then they just try to experiment with those candies and flavors that they grew up with. The Asato family store is one of the famous ones. They've done a bunch of
Oh,
collaborations
awesome.
with them. Um, they did one with White Rabbit candies not too long ago that I really enjoyed. It was like the flavor of those, and yeah, it's neat to see those.
Yeah.
Like I as I didn't grow up here, I don't have that childhood connection, but I can appreciate why certain things would click with you. Like when I have different beers that taste like chocolate or circus peanuts, or you
Yeah.
know, yeah, it just kind of clicks back to childhood. So,
Oh, for sure. Like I always loved to like one thing, and like I think it was like probably the only one in my family that ate it, but I used to eat like the cuttlefish jerky, and that was like one of my favorites. And I don't know if I'm sure people still make it out there, but
oh
I
yeah.
haven't had it in years. But I loved cuttlefish jerky as a kid,
Hmm.
so good. And like going to I loved going to the swap like the little swap meets too, because then they would have like I would get like the lihimoy shaved ice,
Hmm.
picking up or buying like the really big puka shells anytime I would visit over there. I always tell people like what puka means, and like I was like, what they'll ask me what it means. They'll tell me it just means whole.
Hmm.
That's all it really means. My mom would always say, "Oh, you have a puka in your shirt because there were a puka in your sock
Hmm.
and stuff like that." So I always, like just to be able to hear those. Sorry, I'm getting like a weird thing on my phone. Sorry about that. But yeah, like growing up and visiting there and having their stuff and or like eating their food or eating like that type of candy or visiting the swap meets. Those like you know that was my childhood, and I just like I still like look back on those days so fondly, even though it's been a long time since I've been there.
Hmm.
But I always loved going
Yeah.
and visiting the family and stuff. Are there any other like because I know like if you could explain what like locomoco is like to
Sure.
people, because I know it's like that's like are there are I guess Hawaiian version of like the hamburger in a way,
Hmm. I
kind
guess
of. Yeah.
the story goes. I don't know how true it is, or I don't know the names or anything, but it was that like teenagers that would be out surfing all day needed a lot of protein, and but also didn't have a lot of like pocket change to pay for a big meal.
Yeah.
So it was invented that it's usually, I guess, two scoops of rice, um, a hamburger patty, an egg or two, sunny side up, or however you like it, and then gravy over the top. And There's a few restaurant I like has one instead of the gravy, it's chili on top, which is even a lot more protein. So it's a really simple dish. It's delicious
Hmm.
though, and it can keep you going all day. So
Yeah, for sure. One thing I was like tell people too, they asked, it was like I would tell them like, yeah, they serve a lot of times. Like if you go to like some mom and pop spots, yeah, they serve rice with their with the breakfast and stuff like that.
hmm
Or
yep.
and they like and people are like thrown by that, or like spam and eggs
hmm
is like a big one. But yeah, I love spam. I grew I grew up eating it, so I still
Sure.
eat it. I also make spam and eggs sometimes with like some white rice and stuff like that too.
Yeah, it's great having quality musubi everywhere. Iyasume is a
Hmm.
local chain, and they do so many different things with it. And a musubi it's like a Japanese style sandwich. So it's usually a little rectangle of rice with a thick slice of spam or egg or vegetables or some combination of those, and then it's wrapped with a piece of seaweed and maybe there's a little sauce like
Hmm.
teriyaki or I just
Yeah.
saw a new one at 7-Eleven. It was kimchi fried rice instead of white
Oh wow.
rice, and so there's like infinite combinations, but they all end up looking like a little brick size, and one or two of those is
Yeah.
enough. Is all you need for a meal. Keep you going for a little while. So,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, with the those carbs with the rice will keep you going all day.
hmm
For sure. I know you've been to see quite a few breweries, doing in the field that you're in and stuff like that. Do you have any funny like tap room stories from either over there or any other places you visited?
I think I would say that the most fun things that happen are when you're at a tap room. Maybe you're traveling alone or whatever, and because
Hmm.
of Untapped or Instagram or whatever, you see that there are literally people that but have never met
Yeah.
there at the same time. And I've actually met some, I'd say, lifelong friends either through beer apps or just at a tap room. You're sitting and you overhear somebody, maybe a couple, one asks another a question, don't know where to go. You give them a recommendation, and then all of a sudden you're still friends. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love those. I love those stories, and people that end up buying you beer, or you end up having like a long night drinking and laughing, and you only just met them a couple hours before. So
Yeah. Yeah, and that's how I always kind of like when I think of what this show is and what I've always wanted it to be is to be exactly that. Whether it's, I'm talking to you or talking to just, some random person across the country or, someone in Canada or anywhere. Um, I love that being able to do something like that and be able to have, you make you have genuine conversations with genuinely good people,
hmm
and being able to do that, to me, that's just awesome.
yeah, I agree. I and it makes the world feel smaller too, because we geographically we're very far away from everything else, but then when you're I don't know, online and stuff, everything feels so close together. And when people come
Hmm.
here on vacation or whatever, you meet them. I have a few friends that I met them through beer, and they like to come here maybe for a week or whatever a year. And every time they come, we get together, and or people just have a stop over here for a night, going to Asia or somewhere else, and it's a similar thing. Get together for a couple
Yeah.
beers before they go on their way, and I love taking people around too. Ones that reach out, and they. I would much rather actually take somebody for a walk and have a beer with them at a bunch of places than just give them a list of places to go on their own. So
100%. I mean, and I love that. That's really cool that you do that because there's, sometimes like you can, if you can find, a person that's, willing to help out like that. And, because there's a lot of crappy things in the world, but if
mhm.
you can, when you make that kind of connection and you can, meet someone that's a genuinely nice person and be willing to do that, like how cool is that? Because it's not something you see every day.
Yeah, I think there's resources out there for passively. You can go to visit a place and see all these things on your own, but it's always much better when you're actually talking with people, people that know the beer scene, or that the owners and bartenders and whoever themselves. So You never. I
100%.
I recently went on a trip to New Zealand, and it was a very similar thing. Like I had a handful of people that I'd never met, but I reached out to them. Ended up getting to meet them all in person, and they told me about places to go, things to do, and it's like I would have had no idea just doing research because even here for visitors, I feel like a lot of the times people come here for the first time and they all end up doing and seeing the same things. It's just
Yeah.
because that's what's available. It's those famous things that everybody has to do. But especially for
Yeah.
a beer traveler or whatever, you might miss the really good little spots if you aren't talking
Hmm.
to somebody that knows. So
Yeah. That's awesome, man. And I'm sure everybody that, that you talk to or that goes out there is super appreciative of it because that's really cool of you to do. I know we're winding up. I don't want to keep you too long. But I did want to ask, do you have a hangover cure or do you get hangovers sometimes?
'Cause
I know, yeah.
well, one of the things I mean, one of my favorite things to do is when friends travel or send each other beer or whatever. One person, if you're going to sit down and have a beer, you can have like one or two, and
Yeah.
especially like a 16-ounce can. So I would much rather get together with four people and get to try 8 or 10 beers.
Yeah.
Everybody sharing. So having those like I always prepare with, I love iced tea. I drink a lot of it and water the day that we're doing it, and I always try to drink non-alcohol stuff while we're doing the shares, and then especially after. And you know, uh,
Yeah.
sometimes it's even hard to remember to actually slow down and eat something. So that's always
Yeah.
you always have to have those. But then yeah, walking around here, it's really easy to grab a musubi or whatever, and
Okay.
that helps enough just because of the rice and the grease and all that. Yeah, it's good.
Oh
Greasy
yeah.
foods always helps the next day, and Tylenol, whatever, if you really need. But
Oh yeah.
I really try.
Yeah.
Personally try never to get to that point, and
Yeah.
that big competition I judged in Oregon, I was honestly surprised at how good of a job they did to like make sure that we were ready the next day, each day,
Awesome.
without hangovers and stuff. And I feel like moderation and just being responsible, knowing your limit too. There's always that you're having fun and somebody will say one more, and it's like sometimes that you had your last one already. So
Yeah.
yeah.
For sure. That's awesome. I mean, because especially I feel like you were saying with the musubi, I feel like that's like the perfect thing because it's like portable. It's not very big. It's not like you're
Mhm.
holding a big old burrito or
Right.
anything like that. So, if you can have something like that, that's ideal. But honestly, man, I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your Sunday to be on the show. Um, this will be out in a couple weeks. So everybody listening, make sure you follow Alexander at Aloha State Beer on Instagram, and it's Aloha State Beer is your website, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. So check out his stuff, and anything else you wanna plug or anything like that?
Just thanks for the invitation, and everybody out there listening. Appreciate your ear for an hour talking about beer.
No, for sure. And yeah, and too bad for all of you listeners. We're going to stay on and chat for a minute after we stop the recording. But thanks again, man. I really do appreciate this. This was really fun.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys. Honestly, I really hope you enjoyed that. I mean, honestly, he was a really nice guy. Like, it was super cool talking to him, talking to Alexander. Like, he was, and then honestly, I kind of nerded out, I think, towards the end when we talked about like crack seed and we talked about like, Lehimoy and all that sort of stuff. And the kind of places you can go out there and you want to, honestly, it's about supporting the places that are local to you. And that's what I love the most, man. It's just like finding like your local watering hole. And if you can like do that and be like, I always equate it to Cheers. Like I talk about Cheers all the time. Anytime I go anywhere, like Noble is kind of like my Cheers because I can go there and like Normie, like hey, or Mike's here, or whatever, stuff like that. Uh, so I mean, to me, that's like it's the best, man. Like you get to go hang out with your buds, have a few beers, and even like you get to know the beer tenders, you get to know like the owners and stuff like that. Like what's better than that? Like you get to have like a family outside of your own because you can't pick your family, but you can choose your friends. And to me, that's everything. And I just feel like, you know, being able to do something like that or be able to have that is what I should have said. Being able to have that outlet because we all need it. Like I was recording the other day with Brews with Drew. My bad. Brews with Drew the other day on from Instagram, and we were talking about mental health, and it was just like it struck a chord because I mean people listening now might not know, but back in October, I had a cousin, committed suicide. Like so, I mean, like something if you can have that kind of, and I'm not trying to get super sappy right now on the outro because I'm gonna say something funny. Um, well, hopefully it's funny, but when you can kind of have that outlet, or you can find your family, you can find your brewery, you can find the people you want to spend time with, and have a drink or have a beer, be able to do stuff like that. To me, that's everything, man. So if you can go out there, get your ass out there, and have a good freaking time at a brewery, enjoy yourself, and like what more? Like what more do you need? Like you can just, you know what? I'm gonna end this episode like this. I'm gonna end it right after I say this because you guys all know I'm wrestling. I'm a wrestling fan. And shout out to to Bruce Buns. I think we talked about on the episode that'll be out next week. His Hall of Fame speech for Scott Hall said, "Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do." Hope you enjoyed the episode, Dad Fam.